See you later, Mom. I'll be back in a couple hours. Have some brunch ready for me.
Where do you think you're going?
I'm going outside to play with my friends.
I don't think that's safe, sweetie.
Mom, it's a snow day. The most magical of days in a young child's life.
Oh wow, South Park is really on a roll nowadays. After we thought the South Park IP could only produce shit games, we've been pleasantly surprised with The Stick of Truth that still was about shit, and it kind of felt like a playable South Park movie with Paper Mario style turn-based combat and similar exploration, all in a high fantasy make-believe setting that reminded a lot of the Lord of the Rings episode. After that followed The Fractured But Whole, which swapped out high fantasy for a superhero story and threw in tactical combat, and after that, we went back to high fantasy in its newest release, Snow Day, which boldly went into a whole new direction. It threw out the look of the show and replaced it with a 3D aesthetic, kinda like they wanted another chance after totally failing with the N64 game. And I have to say, it looks pretty good. The style works, and even though the models and character textures are rather simple, the devs didn't cheap out and created some decent environments, weather effects and whatnot. Some of the scenes look amazing for what it is. Instead of turn-based RPG or tactic fights, we now get real-time skirmishes, casual party brawlers that are less about skill and more about ridiculous loadouts. The only things that stayed the same are the inclusion of the original voice actors and of course, the charming yet crass South Park humor.
Please, God, just this one time, don't fuck me.
Who's this kid? Are they playing? No, not yet. They gotta pass one final test. Okay, new kid. Kick his ass! What? Ah! Go! Go, new kid! Kick that fucking elf's ass!
I'll show that little dirty Drew boy not to mess with the Grand Wizard.
You once again assume the role of the new kid, continuing the story of the first two games, kinda. You are more or less the same character, but since the make-believe game the kids are playing changed and new rules were implemented, you're once again reset to level 0. And to keep you from getting overpowered again, you always have to start a match with the basic loadout and don't keep the upgrades you unlocked during a session. So it's a cute way to justify starting from scratch with each new battle.
So, as you can see, we've had to make some changes to the game because some asshole who we won't name decided to become all-powerful and ruin Stick of Truth because then everyone wanted to be all-powerful and nobody could die anymore. So then we played superheroes and guess what happened? That same someone got all OP again and fucking ruined that game too.
Now, where in the previous two games the fighting was more or less just a well-made filler in between little funny character moments, and the exploration led to said moments, this game is mostly about the skirmishes. After selecting a mission and watching a cutscene and choosing your special abilities, you get dropped into the mission area and fight your way through screens filled with enemies and indulge in a small amount of exploration to collect currency in between battles, and also during battles. Most of the time you battle hordes of enemies appearing in waves and you either have to defeat all of them or make your way to the exit or an objective. It can get pretty chaotic and hard to distinguish between friend or foe, not that it matters all too much since most of your attacks don't hurt your buddies, though some special effects might not care about who's on your team. The combat consists mostly of mashing any of your attack buttons and occasionally use one of your powers. You have a standard melee attack and a simple combo as well as a charged attack, and you have a ranged attack that you can sometimes also charge. The type of your attack and its upgrades is determined by the weapon you have equipped. You can equip dual daggers, sword and board or a crushing axe. For ranged weapons, that's a bow, a wand of fireball or a flame-throwing scepter. So for the wand you might get an upgrade to fire multiple fireballs at once, or have them bounce, or have them leech HP from enemies. Your sword and board has an upgrade that turns your dodge roll into a shield charge, or give you a power attack. And while these upgrades certainly shake up the flow of the battle and create more and more chaos, the base of the combat system stays rather simplistic. All the characters are rather slow, melee attacks tether you to the closest enemy, and even the ranged attacks that you need to aim don't require too much skill, because of the slow and clumsy movement, so combat pretty quickly becomes rather repetitive. Now, you do get a few powers to keep things from getting too stale too quickly, in theory. You have a healing totem, a fart blast, a bull rush or a defensive bubble, amongst others. You can mix and match those powers with any weapon and create a whole range of different classes or archetypes. You can have a fireball throwing shield bearer with healing powers and a bubble that reflects projectiles. You can be an axe-wielding barbarian that blasts himself with his own farts across the battlefield. But since battles tend to drag on a bit and you can change your loadout mid-mission, you still end up doing the same things over and over again. I don't see the single player mode having much staying power, despite some quite funny and sometimes rather creative scenarios, or the downloadable wave defense mode. I guess the meat of the game is the cooperative multiplayer mode, where you can join forces with 3 random players or friends and tackle the missions or the horde mode together. In single player, or when you can't assemble a whole team, the remaining slots get filled up with AI partners that do a decent job in attacking the enemy bots, but they don't get as creative with the weapon power combinations as human players tend to be. The battles won't suddenly become incredibly exhilarating, but maybe don't turn stale as fast. And you can play far more efficiently with a team of actually thinking players. If you get paired with thinking humans. And of course, if you can get the online mode to work. Marvelous. But yeah, thinking players aren't a sure thing, it seems. I got matched to this fucking idiot who hosted a game and then fucked around and didn't start the mission. What's the guy's problem? Fucking asshole. Well, I used the time to take some notes, but still. You know what would have helped? Maybe some basic phrases to select and display during an online session, or a ping function. And if that doesn't help, a report function would be highly appreciated. I mean, getting the fucking online mode to run is a miracle in and of itself. So when you finally join a game and then got stuck with Mr. fucking around in the lobby, it's just infuriating. Just a fucking waste of time.
It's the leader's job to choose the next mission. If you're bored, go bother the leader.
But if you get a team together and jump into the fray, it's some good fun in short bursts. But the limited options to communicate with random players are still a big issue. I couldn't tell my teammates about the treasure chest I found, or ask them to wait before stepping into the exit zone and starting a countdown towards the level transition. We couldn't really discuss tactics. I guess a party chat would be an option, but come on. We all remember playing online matches back in the day with 10-year-olds constantly blabbering into the mic, or that one dude who had his mic on the whole time while music was blasting from his speakers, so we got to hear shreds of Linkin Park every few seconds. No one wants that. Again, basic phrases and a ping function would already help a lot. But yeah, that's basically the game. During missions and sometimes outside of it, you get to collect different currencies that you can spend on cosmetics, permanent character upgrades, and on better upgrade cards during a match. I kinda like this rogue-style card system, in where you expand your collection and only increase the chance of getting better draws during a match. And start from the same baseline every time. It makes balancing the challenge easier and prevents grinding. And I personally wouldn't even have needed the character upgrades. I mean, the system works perfectly for MOBAs. The only thing I find really strange with this game is that there is no competitive or deathmatch mode. You can only play co-op against waves of enemies or during the story missions. But why can't you pit 2 player-controlled teams against each other? Let them join the forces of Cartman's Knights, Kyle's Drews, or Stan's Marshwalker Barbarians, where fodder enemies continuously spawn to increase the chaos, but also to have ways to generate rage you need for your powers and also have a chance for pickups to drop. The win condition could be to wipe out all opposing players, or to capture a point or a flag. It could even be a payload escort. Pretty much anything is possible. Maybe they patch in such a mode at a later date. I think it would increase the lifespan of this game drastically. As it is now, I think it's a funny little addition to the South Park franchise and not too much of an financial investment for $30. I mean, it is a budget game and it should be judged as such. And if you have some friends, playing it together in short sessions should offer some good fun. And with that, I'm off. I wish you the greatest of days. This has been Rady, and I hope to see you again on the next game.
Using a shield. What the hell? Oh no. Oh, player one. That was close.
You can't...